Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's Mindy here and I hope you're doing well. Recently, Fragrantica completed their 2021 Readers Choice Awards. This is the third Readers Choice Award. Since my fragrance journey really got into full swing, I've always loved fragrance for eternity, as long as I can remember. But over the past 2 years is really when I started diving into notes, trying to understand accords, reading every single review I could find on certain fragrances, and binging every YouTube video that I can find on the fragrances I'm curious about. I thought it'd be fun today if I honed in on the winners of the Best Vanilla category. I have a good chunk of the top 20 fragrances here that I want to share my rating with you. In fact, I found it really difficult to only focus on the top 20, so I actually have around 29 of the top 50 Fragrantica Best Vanilla fragrances here, and I want to share my thoughts with you. In some cases, I don't have the original fragrance, but most cases I do. In some cases, I have samples. In some cases, I have a clone fragrance. So if clone fragrances are not for you, I recommend skipping over that part. But that being said, I do have strong representation of the top 20 and a lot of other fragrances from that list that I'd love to touch on today. I have to say there is one fragrance that is noticeably missing, and that is Note Vanille by the House of M. Micallef. This fragrance I just recently had the opportunity to try, and it has quickly moved up on my favorite vanilla listings. So I wanted to share this one with you. This is a fragrance I've talked about in my last couple of videos. I'm really enjoying this one, and I would love to see this one on future lists. Along those lines, there are a couple fragrances that I did leave out of this list that I'm familiar with, like Fancy by Jessica Simpson, Alien Essence Absolute, there's Vanilla Woods, there's Angel Share, just a few that I left out so I could keep this list as simple and as quick as possible. One last thing I want to mention before I jump into these perfumes is that I did notice yesterday that Thierry Mugler had passed away. This is so sad for the fragrance community. I know he's had such a strong influence. He has an amazing reputation under his belt, and it's so sad to see somebody like him pass away. So I am extending my condolences to everybody who has appreciated his amazing brand and all of his amazing creations. Okay, now I will jump into this list. I will try to move quickly on some of these. One thing I'll mention is that Fragrantica doesn't have a list from 1 to 50. I had to kind of count to try to figure out where each of these placed, so beware that my counting could have some mistakes in it. I'll do my best. Number 57 on the list is Cologne of the Missions. This is one of the easiest, smoothest, most likable boozy vanillas that I've ever tried. This fragrance is no longer available. It has been discontinued, and I noticed that some of the prices out there are extremely high, but you can find a couple of the 30 milliliter splashes out on eBay for under $100. This is a lovely scent, one that I wish I had that 8.5 ounce bottle of. This is Cologne of the Missions, and I give this one a rating of 8.5 out of 10. Coming in at number 56 on the list is Princess by Kilian. This is my favorite Kilian creation to date, and this one has marshmallow in it. The marshmallow is beautiful in this fragrance, but what keeps it from going too sweet are the notes in here. There's tea, lemon, and ginger, and they kind of balance out the scent profile. This is one that I have strong, positive scent memories attached to. It's a fragrance that I hope to always have in my collection. I give this one an 8.5 out of 10. Next up is La Belle Le Parfum. This was released in 2021, and there was tons of hype over this fragrance. I find it to be a sweeter, fruitier, denser version of the original fragrance. This one has the added note of tonka bean. I feel like there is a little bit of a nutty scent to this fragrance, which I like. It has tonka bean in it, and tonka bean is said to have, at times, a sweet tobacco, almond nuance to it. Although I'm not reaching for it as much as I did when I first got it, I do enjoy this fragrance, and I would give this a rating of 8 out of 10. Next up is La Nuit Tresor à la Folie, and this is by Lancome. This takes the 47 position in the list of Fragrantica vanilla fragrances. This is classified as an amber vanilla fragrance. It is one of my very favorite fragrances of all time. I would say top 3, maybe top 5. This is beautiful. I'm addicted to the warm vanillic presence in this one. There is a little bit of fruitiness in here. There is a little tiny bit of spiciness because there is nutmeg in this fragrance. This one is absolutely effortless in my opinion. It's smooth, it's calming, it's comforting. This is the fragrance that I wore on one of my worst days of 2021. It was the day that I put our dog down named Gizzy. It was a very, very difficult day, and I did wear this fragrance for the comfort that it brings to me, and I'm so glad I did. I do not have negative scent memories attached to this. I was afraid I would, but I absolutely do not. One thing I have to say is that I have heard murmurs that this is being continued, that possibly all of the La Nuit Tresor line is being discontinued. I do not know that for a fact, but I did reach out to a rep with Lancome, and I did get the sense that this line could be going away. I was devastated that I couldn't access La Nuit Tresor Intense recently. That does have a cherry accord. I've been super curious about it, but my understanding is that that is only available in France. So if you live in France, you are so lucky. I have been stocking up on this because I love it so much, but I'll probably stock up a little bit more knowing that it could be discontinued. This is La Nuit Tresor à la Folie. Easily a 9 out of 10 for me, maybe even higher. Next up is Kilian Love Don't Be Shy, and this takes the 46th position in the list of top vanillas on Fragrantica for the Readers' Choice Awards. This is a fragrance that I don't have a full bottle of, and there's a reason for that. I do like this scent, but I do sort of wish that it had less florals. The floral notes in here are neroli, orange blossom, jasmine, honeysuckle. I wish that I pulled out more of that caramel, more of the vanilla, and more of the sugar that's in here. Now that just has to do with the fact that I am a gourmandie by heart. I love those warm, deep, rich, sweet gourmand notes in my fragrances. I do think a floral fragrance lover that likes a little bit of sweetness will really enjoy this one. Now I have thought about buying this fragrance many times, but I just don't love it enough. I'll say that I have purchased the duoclone that is Be in Love, and I have that. I haven't played with it too much, but if I do find myself falling madly in love with that one, there may be an original bottle of this in my future. Right now, I would consider this a 6.5 out of 10. It's just not a love for me. It is in the light category, but I do think somebody who likes sweet florals will really enjoy this scent. This is Love Don't Be Shy by Kilian. Okay, taking a jump in the list to the 36th position is Black Opium by the House of YSL. This is a fragrance that has coffee in it. It's like a sweet coffee scent profile that I do enjoy. This fragrance is really nice. It's really super popular, and for good reason. A lot of people really enjoy this fragrance. It is commercially available in a lot of different stores, so this one is easily accessible. This could easily be someone's signature scent. I think it's a beautiful scent profile. This is one that I'm not wearing near as much as I once was because my collection has grown quite a bit. I do really enjoy the scent profile though. I like to smell this on other people. I would rate this one a 7 out of 10. Taking the 32 spot on the Fragrantica Readers' Choice Awards is Club Black by Mercedes-Benz. So this is a fragrance that I recently learned about by watching someone else's YouTube channel. This is one that I think is a beautiful vanilla. It is said to be like Cologne of the Missions, the masterpiece that fragrance is, and I definitely pick up some similarities to it. It also is perfectly unisex. This seems to be marketed towards men, but I do think anybody could comfortably wear this fragrance and feel good wearing it. One last thing that I thought I'd mention is that this fragrance does share some similarities with Casablanca by Swiss Arabian. There were some, I'll call them menacing qualities that I didn't like about Casablanca. Maybe it's the sharp fruits in it, there's grapes I believe, there's apple in it, maybe it's the white woods, I'm not exactly sure. There was something sharp to my nose that I didn't enjoy. There's something reminiscent about Casablanca here, but it does not smell the same. I definitely prefer this one, and I would rate this fragrance an 8 out of 10. Again, this is Mercedes-Benz Club Black. Coming in at the 29th spot on the list is Poison Girl, the EDT by Dior. This is a fragrance that makes me feel happy, uplifted, and cheerful. This was my scent of the day on New Year's Eve. I really wanted to bring in the new year on a bright, happy, cheerful note, and this fragrance absolutely helped me do that. While this is called Poison Girl, I do feel like it is perfectly ageless. I do think anybody could wear this fragrance. I will say it does have a very bright, citrusy opening. Then it dries down on the skin with kind of a vanillic, caramelic scent. That citrus does stick around and you can still smell it after it dries down into the skin, and it does give it that bright quality, but I do love the sweetness from this fragrance, and I think this is a great vanilla to have for somebody who wants something a little bit cheerful. I would rate Poison Girl EDT an 8 out of 10. I have good memories from this fragrance, and somebody who gave me this perfume is very special, so this will always hold a special place in my heart. Taking the number 27 spot is a Tom Ford fragrance. It is Vanille Fatal. I do not have Vanille Fatal. I have a feeling I've smelled it at the Tom Ford counter before, but I don't have the fragrance and I don't have a good connection to what it smells like. That being said, I do have Fatal Vanilla by the House of Dua. This is the inspiration to Vanille Fatal by Tom Ford. The clone has slightly different notes than that are in the original fragrance. I didn't notice that there's rum in this one. I didn't notice that there's plum in this one, but I do think it is a very alluring, boozy type tobacco fragrance. Somebody who's looking for a vanilla that has a kick, I think you might enjoy this one. I'm not there yet, but I do see that this fragrance could move into the love category for me as I get to know it a little bit more. There were some reviews that scared me on the original Vanille Fatal, and that's why I moved forward with the cologne just to get a sense for what the scent profile might be like. Somebody had said that it smelled like a Catholic mass because of the myrrh and the olibanum in here, but for me, I find it to be a deep, dark, woody vanilla. The original fragrance is rated a 4.16 out of 5. It is very common, it's very talked about in the fragrance community. I would probably rate this one around a 7.5 out of 10, but again, I'm interested to see if my love for this one grows. Again, this one is Fatal Vanilla by the House of Dua. It's a clone of Vanille Fatal by Tom Ford. In the 25 spot is La Belle, and this is by the House of Jean-Paul Gaultier. This is a warm, delicious, smoky type vanilla. This is one that I find to be a little bit more earthy than the Le Parfum version that has tonka bean. This one has a vetiver note that just gives it a little bit more of an earthy quality. I've honestly gone back and forth on this one. You couldn't go through 2021 without hearing about this fragrance or the Le Parfum version, and that actually goes back into 2020. This was extremely, extremely popular, and I'm not hearing about it near as much anymore. I do still enjoy the fragrance. I played with it earlier today. And once I put it on my skin, I remembered why I liked it so much at one point. But I will say, as my collection has grown and grown and grown, this one has become a little bit more abandoned in my collection. I'm definitely not reaching for this one as much as I once was. Overall, I consider this fragrance to be about a 7.5 out of 10. I do still enjoy it. It's one that I hope to have long term. This is La Belle by Jean-Paul Gaultier. Taking the 24th spot is Musc Ravageur by the House of Frederic Malle. I do not have that fragrance, and I am so sad to say that at one point I did buy a Discovery sample set, and I have lost that sample set. I think I might have accidentally thrown it away because of the way it was packaged in kind of this black cardboard box. I must have thought it was trash, or maybe someone else in my house did, but I am devastated to no longer have that sample kit. I need to rebuy it because I do remember Musc Ravageur being one of the best musks that I've ever smelled. I really enjoyed the scent profile. While I don't have that fragrance, I do have Narams Elixir. This is again by the House of Dua. I personally find that Dua makes great clone, great dupe fragrances. Overall, I think they have great quality, and most of their perfumes have very strong projection and great longevity. This fragrance, it starts off quite heavy at first spray. It is intense. As it dries down on the skin, you can pull out some of the cloves that are in here. You can pull out the cinnamon, you can pull out the woody accord. Eventually, when it dries down, I would say maybe after an hour or so, it's very smooth, it's kind of spicy. I find this to be intoxicating. This is the type of fragrance that I would wear on my skin for myself because I do enjoy the scent profile, but I do really think I would love to smell this on a man as well. I think this would be intoxicating no matter who you are to smell on your significant other. I'm super curious how others react to this fragrance, Narams Elixir, or the original Musc Ravageur. I think this is a great scent. And right now, I'm really getting to know this one. I just recently brought this into my collection. I would give this an 8 out of 10 rating. Okay, now we are in the number 20 spot. And in the number 20 spot for the Fragrantica Readers Choice Awards is the fragrance Herod by the House of Parfums de Marly. Now, I do not have that original fragrance. I have smelled it, but I do have something that is quite similar. This is Arabian Horse by the House of Alexandria Fragrances. I bought this one quite some time ago. My husband used it all up, and I absolutely could not live my life without buying another one. This is the full bottle that I recently purchased. I absolutely adore this fragrance, which is why I purchased it a second time, and I will purchase it a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth time. Just really, really find this intoxicating on a man. Though I will say I know plenty of women, I've seen plenty of reviews of women who enjoy wearing this on themselves. I am absolutely smitten by this fragrance. I love this one. In the notes are cinnamon, there's tobacco, love tobacco fragrances. There's also vanilla, patchouli, vetiver, musk, and cedar. I highly, highly recommend, if you like tobacco notes and perfumes, giving this one a shot and seeing if you like either the original Herod by Parfums de Marly or this fragrance, Arabian Horse by Alexandria Fragrances. Also, if you do like this fragrance or the original Herod, please let me know what other fragrances you like in this vein. This is the fragrance that really sent me down the rabbit hole many times, trying to explore what else out there might be like this. This is easily a 9.5 out of 10 for me. I could probably almost bump this up to a 10 out of 10. Just really love this fragrance. I think the spot in the 20th position is very well deserved. This is Arabian Horse by Alexandria Fragrances. It's a clone of Herod by Parfums de Marly. Coming in at the 19th spot is the beautiful Vanilla 28 by the House of Kayali. This is an intoxicating fragrance. This is one that I've spoken about many times on my channel, so I won't go too deep on this one. If you want to hear a more elaborate review, feel free to go look on my channel because I've talked about this one in depth before. This is deep, it's sweet, it's warm, it's comforting. It's a brown sugar, cozy vanilla scent. I'm so happy to have this one. I do consider this to be a staple in my collection. Today I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. I really think that if you are a vanilla lover, if you are a gourmand lover, and you haven't already, you want to get your nose on this one. This is Vanilla 28 by the House of Kayali. Okay, taking the 18th position on this list is Serge Lutens Un Bois Vanille. Now, I do not have a full bottle of this fragrance, but I do have a sample, and I am semi-familiar with this fragrance. This fragrance is the perfect example how reading reviews on Fragrantica can really get in your head and influence your perception on a scent. I read once, maybe a year and a half ago, that somebody said this smells like that oil or that polish that you put on wood floor, and since then I have never been able to get that out of my mind. This is a scent that smells really nice on paper. It smells amazing out of my decant, but for some reason when I put this one on my skin, it just does not smell nice to me. It just doesn't wear on my skin very well. This is a fragrance that I want to love. Can you tell? I really want to love this one. I do like it more than the last time I tried it, so maybe I'm growing an appreciation for this one. But at this point in time, I have to say this one is about a 6.5 out of 10 for me. This is the type of vanilla scent that I do like, but I feel like it doesn't go enough into that gourmand direction for me to really enjoy. I am a gourmandie by heart, and for whatever reason, Un Bois Vanille by Serge Lutens has not worked out for me. Into the number 17 spot we go with Eau Duelle the EDT by Diptique. This is a beautiful green, slightly sweet, aromatic vanilla. This is a fragrance that I went into Nordstrom, I tried out, and I walked out with it that day. It had been on my radar, but I really didn't know much about it until then. Once I got my nose on this one, I did fall in love. This contains the beautiful note of bourbon vanilla, but it's also balanced by some freshness, by some depth with that black tea and juniper that's in here. Here you get fresh, but you get cozy, you get a little bit of spicy. There's cardamom and pink pepper in this scent. This one is an 8.5 out of 10 for me. This is Eau Duelle the EDT by the House of Diptique. Taking the number 16 spot is a very loved vanilla fragrance. This is Orchidée Vanille by the House of Van Cleef & Arpels. This is a fragrance that is exceptionally loved. It is very highly rated. This is a perfume that I had preconceived notions about what it was, and when I received my sample, it didn't quite meet the expectations that I had had for it. This one leans a little bit more citrusy than I expected because of the mandarin orange note that's in here, but it also leans quite a bit more floral than I had expected. There is a heavy vanilla orchid note in here. There's also Bulgarian rose, and I believe there's a violet note in here as well. One other thing that I didn't expect from this, I thought it would be more vanilla-centric, but I do get, when I press my nose to it, the chocolate that people mentioned smelling in here. It sort of smells reminiscent of the chocolate that is in the Chocolate Greedy fragrance by Montal. I don't want people to think that this scent smells exactly like Chocolate Greedy because it definitely does not. Like I mentioned, there's the mandarin orange in here. There are those floral scents that really take center stage with this fragrance, but I definitely pick up a chocolate similar to that that's in Chocolate Greedy there in the background. I wonder if I could push aside what I expected this to be, if I might appreciate it a little bit more. I do think today I appreciate it a little bit more than I did maybe a year ago when I first tested it, but still this hasn't crept up into a love for me, though I know it has for many other people. Overall, I'm gonna have to rate this one a 6 out of 10. It's not one that I see myself reaching for. I am so sorry to those of you that love this fragrance. Apologies in advance. I do want a little bit of grace on this one because I know it is a heavily loved scent. This is Orchidée Vanille by the House of Van Cleef & Arpels. Taking the 15th spot is Spice Bomb Extreme by the House of Viktor & Rolf. This is exactly what the name suggests. It is a fresh, spicy type scent. If you don't like spicy fragrances, you may not like this one. I really enjoy when my husband wears this. It does have a tobacco note in it. There's also black pepper, caraway, lavender, and vanilla. This fragrance gets a ton of love on Fragrantica. It has a 4.51 rating out of a lot of reviews, so I don't remember how many. For this fragrance, I would rate it an 8 out of 10 for me. Again, this is Spice Bomb Extreme by the House of Viktor & Rolf. Taking the 14th spot is a fragrance that is very well loved. This is By the Fireplace by the House of Replica. This is one that is perfectly named. I only have a mini for this one, and I haven't been using it a ton. I say this is perfectly named because it definitely makes you think of those warm summer nights sitting around a campfire roasting marshmallows, or being in a cozy, secluded log cabin with the fireplace burning. This is a gorgeous scent that really evokes the scent of a campfire or a fireplace scent. This is smoky, it's woody, it's vanillic. Really like this scent. Definitely understand why people love it enough for it to be in the 14 spot. For me, I would rate this one an 8 out of 10. This is By the Fireplace by the House of Replica. Coming in at the 13th spot on the Readers' Choice Awards is the beautiful Angelique Noir by the House of Guerlain. I have to say that I didn't totally understand the hype of this fragrance when I first tried it out. To me, it was a little bit almost bitter maybe. It wasn't the type of vanilla that I had expected when I ordered my sample. I found that green quality of this fragrance to be a little bit startling at first. This does have a strong Angelica note, and according to Fragrantica, Angelica is a note that is musky, it's woody, it has a sweet, rooty smell. As this one dries down, it does become captivating. Like many of the other Guerlain fragrances, it is very sophisticated and it is a classy vanilla perfume. I really enjoy and appreciate this scent. I do think it is a beautiful fragrance, but that being said, I've never felt compelled to move forward with a full bottle, and I don't find myself reaching for this sample very often, simply because I do have Eau Duelle the EDT, and as green vanilla fragrances go, that's one I prefer prefer a little bit more because it is sweet. I do rate Angelique Noir by Guerlain a 7.5 out of 10. Coming in at the number 12 spot is Fève Delicieuse by the House of Christian Dior. I am so devastated that I cannot find my sample anywhere and share my current thoughts with you on this one, but I have had a sample in the past. It's just what I cannot locate. So I am going to go off of some older notes that I have on this fragrance. And I have to say, this is probably the one fragrance that may make me lose my credibility as a gourmandie. I thought that I would love this fragrance. I thought hands down I would love this perfume because a lot of other people do, but also because of the notes that are in it. It has cherry, caramel, Madagascar, vanilla, and coconut. And while I didn't love this one, I did like it. I do remember enjoying the scent profile, but I never felt compelled to buy a full bottle. For me, looking at my old notes, I did rate this one a 6.5 out of 10. That is Fève Delicieuse by the House of Christian Dior. Taking the number 11 spot is Noir Extreme by the House of Tom Ford. That is a fragrance that I don't have in my collection because generally speaking, I believe that one might be marketed more towards men. I definitely find it intriguing. It sounds like it's a spicy dark vanilla. It has nutmeg in it, and I'm always interested in fragrances that have a nutmeg note, but sadly I'm not familiar with it, so I'm not able to share my thoughts with you. The number 10 spot goes to Mon Guerlain Intense, and I find this to be a beautiful lavender-centric, vanilla, woody scent. This is one that I've spoken about plenty of times on my channel. It's definitely a love for me. It will probably continue to make lists for me. It's a very easy wear fragrance. If I had a signature scent, I do think this one would probably be a candidate. I love the warmth in this one. I love the depth. I love the vanilla in here. This is definitely a beauty that I am so happy to have in my collection. Again, this is Mon Guerlain Intense by the House of Guerlain, and I rate this an 8.5 out of 10. Taking the number 9 spot is Mon Guerlain from the House of Guerlain. I'm kind of surprised to see twice in a row that this fragrance or this line actually made the list, but I do think that Mon Guerlain is a great scent. I have to say though that the coumarin, maybe the licorice, maybe the lavender that are in this scent, I have 2 samples, is a little bit more powerful to me than it is in the Mon Guerlain Sensual, than it is in the Mon Guerlain Intense. In those fragrances, I find them to be a little bit warmer, I find them to be a little bit more comforting, whereas this fragrance is just a little bit more heavy on those notes that I don't appreciate as much. I personally would have loved to see Mon Guerlain Intense a little bit higher on this list than the actual original Mon Guerlain, but don't get me wrong, I do think it's a very nice scent. Completely understand why people love it. This fragrance gets a 6.5 out of 10 for me. This is Mon Guerlain, the EDP by the House of Guerlain. Taking the number 8 spot is Grand Soir by the House of Maison Francis Kurkdjian. I am not certain, but I believe this is my sample for Grand Soir. It has been rubbed off, so I can't tell what this is, but it does smell like what I remember Grand Soir smelling like. This is another one that I haven't smelled for quite some time, and I didn't move forward with the full bottle because I felt like at the time that it leaned a little bit more masculine. This is one that I'd want to reassess because I do remember spraying it on my skin and really liking the scent profile. My thoughts have changed over time on unisex fragrances, where at some point some unisex fragrances leaned a little too masculine for me. My tastes, my preferences are evolving, and for that reason I'm much more inclined today to wear a unisex fragrance to in the past where I generally preferred feminine leaning perfumes. Grand Soir is very rich, it's warm, it's ambery. I do remember it being an intoxicating fragrance that at the time I would have liked to see a man wear, but I think today it's probably the type of fragrance I would want to wear on my skin. Looking back on my notes with Grand Soir, I do keep all of my fragrances listed with all the notes, the accords, and all of my thoughts on them, as well as my rating in a spreadsheet. So I did go back and look, and I did have that one rated an 8 out of 10. Definitely one that I want to buy another sample for to make sure I'm thinking about the right one, retest, but again, it is a beautiful fragrance profile, one that I am going to call an 8 out of 10 for the purposes of today. Grand Soir by Maison Francis Kurkdjian. Okay, taking the 7th spot is Lira by the House of Xerjoff, and this is one that I have a sample for. I never moved forward with a full bottle, and this is the one that really puts my gourmandie status in question. This is one that I also thought I would really, really love. It has beautiful gourmand notes in here, vanilla, caramel, there's cinnamon. What I ended up finding with this fragrance is that the blood orange, that citrus note that's in here, just really takes over the whole fragrance. Even when I wear it on my skin, even when it dries down, I just find that blood orange to be too prominent for me to truly enjoy. I always lean towards those warm, cozy notes like the vanilla and caramel in here, and those are the notes that I would prefer to get more of in this scent. There is no question that I do like this scent. I find it to be very pretty, I find it to be alluring, but it's not one that I would reach for other gourmands that I really, really love. For the purposes of today's video, I will rate this one a 7 out of 10, but I did debate leaving it at a 6.5. This is Lira by the House of Xerjoff. Taking the number 6 spot is Addict by the House of Dior. This is a fragrance that is a deep, dark, rich, intoxicating vanilla with some white florals. I do find this fragrance to be quite seductive. This was not a love at first sniff, but once I got more accustomed to the scent profile, I did really start to like it. This is rated a 4.32 out of Fragrantica. It is one of the more loved fragrances in the fragrance community. I do like this, but it isn't in my top fragrances, at least at this time, probably because of those white floral nuances, but I do give this fragrance an 8 out of 10. Really enjoy the scent profile. This is Addict by the House of Dior. Number 5 on the list is a fragrance that I do not have any version of. That is Shalimar by the House of Guerlain, and it is the EDP. It is one that I've tested quite a while back. I remember it being a little bit smoky, but I just don't know enough about the scent profile to be able to speak about it effectively today. I do recognize it is very loved. I'd love to get a sample of that one in the future, but that is the fragrance that takes the number 5 spot. Okay, number 4 is a fragrance that is probably one of the more talked about on my fragrance channel. This is Spiritueuse Eau Duelle by the House of Guerlain. This is one that I absolutely adore. This was probably the intro for me into niche fragrances. It was one of the first niches that I brought into my collection. This is a delicious, boozy, intoxicating vanilla fragrance. I find it to be beautiful. It's alluring, it's sophisticated. This is one that I would wear for a beautiful event, but I do wear this in the house when I'm gonna be by myself wearing a pair of leggings because I enjoy the scent profile so much. I won't belabor this one. It deserves every bit of that number 4 spot on this list. This is a 9 out of 10 for me. This is Spiritueuse Eau Duelle by the House of Guerlain. All right. Moving into the number 3 spot on the Best Vanilla category of the Fragrantica Readers Choice Awards is the fragrance Ani by the House of Nishane Ani. Now I only have a sample for this one, but I cannot tell you how many times I have put this fragrance into a cart and considered purchasing it. I do like this vanilla. I find myself captivated by it. It is a spicy, woody tone to it. It is a beautiful scent. That being said, I'm not sure what's holding me back exactly. There's something a little bit spicy in this one, and I'm wondering if it has to do with the ginger in here. It has to do with how the spiciness is done in this perfume, and that has held me back from moving forward with a full bottle. I totally understand the hype behind this one. Again, I've gone back and forth on whether I would buy a full bottle or not. This might be one that I buy the clone of, play with a little bit, and really see if I have to have the full bottle, but I don't recall this one being overly expensive, as some niche fragrances are. Nevertheless, I understand the love for this one. I believe it's rated a 4.32 on Fragrantica at this point in time. For me, this fragrance is a 7.5 out of 10. This is Ani by the House of Nishane Ani. Moving into the number 2 spot is another fragrance by the House of Dior. This is Hypnotic Poison. This is a fragrance that is beautiful. It's cozy. It is a little bit of a nuanced vanilla. This is sweet, but it has an almond nutty accord in this one. I highly recommend this fragrance as a seductive, head-turning vanilla scent. This is very, very loved, like a lot of other perfumes on this list. Some people say they get Play-Doh from this, some people get root beer from this. And I definitely get that just a tiny bit. I understand where they're coming from, but I wouldn't say to let that deter you from trying this fragrance out. While I do appreciate this fragrance, it does exude confidence to me. It's one that is very, very loved. It's not one that I'm reaching for a ton over other gourmand fragrances that I do have in my collection. So for that reason, this fragrance, Hypnotic Poison by Dior, gets a 7 out of 10 for me. Okay, now we're moving into the #1 spot on the Fragrantica Readers Choice Awards of the best vanilla. This spot goes to the House of Tom Ford, and it is the fragrance Tobacco Vanille. Now, I do not have Tobacco Vanille in my collection. I don't even have a sample, so I'm not too familiar with the original fragrance, though I do believe I have smelled it at the Tom Ford counter. While I don't have the original fragrance, I do have Sweet Tobacco. This is the Dua inspiration of Tom Ford Tobacco Vanille, and this is one that I recently brought into my collection, so I'm still getting to know the scent profile. This is one that has notes of tobacco leaf, tonka bean, cacao, and vanilla. I wasn't too sure when I first sprayed this because it does come on strong, but this dries down to be a beautiful, warm, comforting tobacco scent. I do love tobacco and fragrances, and so I do believe I'll probably get to know this one and really get to enjoy it. This is a sweet, alluring fragrance. I do think it'd smell nice on a man. I think it'd smell amazing on a woman. I do think it's pretty unisex, so really anyone can wear this one. The original fragrance, so not this one, this is a clone. The original Tobacco Vanille by Tom Ford has a 4.29 rating out of 5 stars, so that is a pretty high rating. I generally think that Dua clones are pretty good, so I have a feeling this is probably pretty close to that original Tom Ford Tobacco Vanille. In my opinion, after just playing with this one for about a day or two, I consider this to be about a 7.5 out of 10. This one could probably go up on my list as I get to know it a little bit more. I do think it's a great scent. Again, this is Sweet Tobacco by the House of Dua, a 7.5 out of 10 for me. Alright guys, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I truly appreciate you. If you enjoyed this video on the Fragrantica Readers Choice Awards top fragrances that I've reviewed and ranked, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. There are so many more vanillas that I want to try and experience. Some on this top 50 list, or however long the list is. There is Shalimar, there's Vanilla Diorama, Kenzo Amore, Vanille Havane, so many vanillas to test out. So I've just started on my fragrance journey. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your week. I hope you have a lot to be grateful and thankful for. And until next time, I'll see you soon.